Cameron Stewart, this is a new one. It comes from Tim Bosco Life on TikTok, who is a college football reporter with 1 million followers and is, as he says, well-connected enough to not be anonymous. Well-connected enough to wear his reports with his own name tied to them, and says Shedeur Sanders might not make the roster. It is Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco throwing perfectly while Shedeur Sanders has all the media there, becomes a distraction, and isn't that good. That's how some reporters are saying his time with the Browns is going already, and that during his OTAs, maybe he's not having the best performance, and a performance that gets him cut in a quarterback room that can't afford to have the 5 or 6 guys that are sitting around there. Is Shedeur Sanders' NFL career, at least with the Browns, over before it even starts by chance?
I'll say this. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he's cut, just being a 5th round pick, and you mentioned the media circus that comes with it. That is certainly something that is going to happen basically wherever he goes. And it's not even really his fault. I know, Shedeur has certainly played his part in contributing to that, and Dion has as well, but that just kind of comes with the territory, with the name and kind of the hype around him and the fall in the draft. This will be interesting because I think we've seen this before. Once you get past training camp, then it more or less goes away. I mean, there'll certainly be people every week that will say, why isn't Shedeur playing? And every time Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco or Dillon Gabriel doesn't play well, they'll say, well, why isn't this Shedeur? Why isn't this Shedeur? And maybe that is something that becomes, something that they bit off more than they could chew. But I think with Shedeur, just being a 5th round quarterback, nothing's guaranteed. Most 5th round quarterbacks do make the roster, but it is not a guarantee, especially when you have another quarterback coming in your draft class in Dillon Gabriel. That's the one that surprised all of us. Like I was stunned to see Dillon Gabriel taken over Shedeur Sanders just from the amount of college football that we watch. So yeah, it could be. It could be over before it starts. Whomever takes a shot on him is going to have a media circus, whether they want it or not.
Yes, and that's the biggest piece of why it could go wrong for Shedeur with the Cleveland Browns is when Joe Flacco is in that quarterback room and when you're competing with guys who are established in the NFL and don't have a ton of media coverage. It's an odd thing the Browns would ask for that, and it didn't seem like when they drafted him they wanted that. He would be immediately picked up by someone else. His NFL career wouldn't be over, but his Browns career could be. And honestly, based on things his dad has said, that might be the best case scenario for Shedeur Sanders for him to not be a Cleveland Brown. Now, I think, and I know you would agree, he is a good enough talent, plenty good enough talent to not just be in Cleveland, but get playing time, be an NFL quarterback at least in the next year or two. So the unfair shake he's getting by people saying, hey, Shedeur Sanders will be cut by the Browns is not a storyline I subscribe to. But then you get reports like this, Yahoo Sports. Now, and before I read this, if I had the money to do it, I also would possibly get a custom Rolls Royce. There is a chance that I would be in that category. But Yahoo, Barry Shuck writes, back in the day, rookie players made the least amount of money. Veterans treated them bad, bossed them around in practices. They called them rooks and brought them out, and they had to pay at restaurants or bars. That's the way it was. But now a team's quarterback can be a rookie, and their edge rusher can be a rookie. But how many rookies buy a custom Rolls Royce before their first ever training camp? And that's Cleveland Browns rookie 5th rounder Shedeur Sanders. It's little stuff like this that if I had the money, I would probably buy, maybe I buy a custom car. But the 5th round quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, looking around at the other rookies or at Joe Flacco and driving up in his brand new custom Rolls Royce, some of the messages Shedeur has sent since his final game at Colorado just haven't gone over with very much feel.
Yeah, and I don't care what job you're in and how much money you're making. If the intern rolls up in a Rolls Royce, that pisses people off. It reminds me of this story, and Shedeur Sanders is not Barry Bonds. I mean, he's one of the most legendary a-holes of all time.
Shedeur Sanders is not the intern
Well, he's a fifth round pick as a rookie.
I see it, yes, but he's the 23-year-old that started day one at KPMG, and you're the vice president who's been there 15 years.
Okay, I'll take that. So it reminds me, though, of the story of Barry Bonds rolling up to his first practice at Arizona State. Big 12 story. He rolls up first day in a Trans Am to day one. And now he was obviously the son of a major leaguer, one of the best high school baseball recruits in the country. And before the end of season one, his teammates voted for him to be off the team. They hated him. They absolutely hated him. And it started day one with that. Now, again, I don't think Shedeur is quite Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds is like legendary as one of the worst people as an athlete ever. But like that is the kind of that's not starting on the right foot. In fact, another Big 12 story, I think Chris Sims did something very similar in his first day at UT. He showed up in a limo or something, son of a former MVP and Phil Sims. And this is where I was thinking about this earlier today. We don't really have another high profile example of this, right? Shedeur obviously being the son of a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a very brash Pro Football Hall of Famer, played for him in college too. But like we think of the other quote unquote Nepo babies, that played in, professional sports, and very rarely do they come in as backups or guys you're taking a flyer on, which, in the fifth round, you're more or less taking a flyer on a guy. The obvious recent one is Bronny James, but that one had a whole different aspect of his dad being on the team. But, usually with these other ones like Eli Manning, he came in to be the starter. He was the number one pick in the draft. That's a different deal.
Didn't take long for Vlad Guerrero Jr. to be.
There you go. There's another one. And I don't know how those kids handled it. I don't know if they were jerks or what they rolled up in the first day in practice, but this is kind of a different roadmap, right? Like we're not used to having a Nepo baby who is pretty good, deserves to be in the National Football League, but is also a backup, not going to be the starter. What's the circus coming with it? It is kind of new, uncharted territory here.
Yeah, and maybe your first thought is, again, I alluded to it a bit. I'd buy a new car too if I had, if you start a new job,
but you better roll up in a Honda Civic, Dan.
A nice bonus, right? There it is. There is the, what are we policing here? Are we just mad for the sake of being mad? And to an extent, sure, maybe this is he'll be cut because they think he's pompous or a jerk.
Yeah, because to your point of you would get the custom car, I might too, but I'm also if I'm in Kenny Pickett's shoes, I'm also angry.
I'm not going to like it. That's what it is. I'm not mad at the kid, but I've been in the workplace before where if you're the guy who shows up with this brand new watch every day and they're like, we just hired you and you're 10 years younger than everybody else who works here. And you're the one who is sweeping the floors from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. And every time I leave at 10 p.m., I just look at you up and down like, how? Why? Why flaunt this in my face? Yeah. And maybe we're talking about something that should be changed in American culture. We shouldn't be so jealous. But there's a hierarchy in the workplace where you feel like, hey, I've earned my stripes. I don't like that optic. And maybe that is another thing you add to the Shedeur Sanders complexity of, is this going to work out? And if it does, maybe that's not in Cleveland. Coming up, Kirby Smart, silly guy. Locked on Big 12, Locked on Baylor.